Hello everybody, and welcome back to Elderberry Sprout. Today it's time for me to make a new book of shadows, or as I call it, a book of reflections. So this is my old book of reflections. I'm starting off by tracing its shape onto a cardboard box. This cardboard box was originally a box of cereal. I like the size of box to work with because the side of the box makes a perfectly sized spine. So I like to work with those existing folds already. Any cereal box will do. And of course, cereal boxes are not all the same size, but this one will work well for this project. I'm making the cover roughly 6 inches wide and the spine about 1.5 inches wide. My intention is to have, as you can see, an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper folded in half to be the signatures in this book. I did this all after work one day, so it was really fun just to casually make this thing. I have been much more precise making books in the past, but this one I just wanted to make for fun. So after I have the overall shape of my book, I reinforce the covers and the spine by adding additional layers of chipboard. I think it's really an amazing practice to try to make garbage into something beautiful and useful in your life, because Lord knows there's enough garbage around. I kind of use it as a way to connect to Gaia and that earth energy. As you can see, I'm not scared to use pieces that have folds in them already. This is a layer that will be sandwiched in between layers, so the fold won't backfire at all. I generally like to make my covers and spine about 3 layers thick of cereal box chipboard. Of course, if you have a different type of chipboard, you wouldn't need to make it 3 layers thick, but I'm trying to reuse what I have available. I opted to glue the shiny outsides of the boxes together instead of the matte inside of the boxes together. And with this glue that I'm using, the adherence wasn't completely perfect, so I would suggest that you glue it the way I do these spine pieces, where it's shiny side to matte side. That way at least one of the sides is textured enough to grab really well. As you can see, I'm adding reinforcing layers to the front and the spine right now. These are all going to be on the inside of the book. They create these little about 1/4 inch dams on each side of the spine that allows the covers to fold closed. You also want to repeat this on the outside of the book as well. I've been doing a lot of journaling this winter, so I'm quite happy that I was able to fill up my last book of shadows. And it's about time for me to make a new one. All of the signatures that I will be putting into this book are going to live in my traveler's notebook. And they're really just filled with my spiritual notes, any research that I'm doing, different spiritual practices that I'm doing. If I'm doing a certain breathwork practice, I'll put that in there. And a lot of different journaling prompts I'll put in there as well. What do you guys put in your book of shadows? I know everybody's spiritual practice looks really different, but I'd like to hear you guys in the comments below. Tell me what you just wrote in your book of shadows. I've been doing a lot of Kundalini research recently and doing some new breathwork practices like I was saying, so that's what a lot of my full moon journaling has been about this last week. It's really nice to have all these clips to be able to keep the edges glued down well. When in doubt, clothespins work as well. And once again, I'm trying to figure out a good glue situation where it's completely biodegradable, and I think I'm going to come up with a wheat paste glue. During Halloween, I experimented with paper mache, so I'm feeling a little bit more confident in my recipe. Here I'm just cleaning up the sides a little bit. And you can see, because of the way I left space along the edges of the spine, it's able to close really well. Ta-da! And now it's time for me to add my book blessing. Now, I made sure to use terminology and a phrasing that I felt was very powerful, so that I was able to carry that energy through the book the whole time that I'm using it. So I did it with a Sharpie, so it was nice and loud and bold, and I just wrote about my intention to bring light to the darkness. I don't often read what other people's book blessings look like, But I do know that this is what mine tends to look like. It's all about bringing light into the darkness and illuminating my inner self and shining the light outwards to bring more light to others as well. Do you guys have a pillar of your spirituality that hasn't changed over the years? Because I definitely think that's been one of mine. Oh yes, and I use the phrase "and so it is" instead of "so mote it be," because I feel like that phrasing is more powerful for me. It's more of a declaration than asking, you know? It's determining that that's the way it shall be. And here I'm just adding some important shapes and little pictures of things that inspire me. What I want to focus on for this next journaling period. And if you want to read what these say, you're welcome to pause the screen and, yeah, take a little look at my blurbs and my chaotic writing. It's fun to write this fast so that your true intentions come out into it. Yeah, never forget to smile, everybody. So now for decorating the outside. This is a fabric that I've used for probably 7 things over the years. I really love this fabric, but I've never found the proper use for it. It was originally a bed sheet, then I turned it into some curtains, and then I turned one of the pieces into a skirt. No, I turned it into a dress and then turned that into a skirt. And now I still have a whole bunch left over, and I'm trying to figure out how to use it in a way that I'll actually be able to see it a lot, because I just love this pattern so much. So I'm just using a glue stick to glue it onto the front cover of this book. I'm making sure to cut the corners and fold them in at a 45-degree angle. It makes the book look a little bit cleaner at the end. And of course, you don't have to use this glue. This is just what I had in my desk. And you don't want to use a really wet glue when you have fabric because the glue might seep through. So, glue stick worked for me. Just so you know, most of these clips are in 500 times speed, so they're 5 times sped up. Some of them are 10 times sped up, so the process for making this whole book is a lot longer than it seems here. So don't get down on yourself if it takes quite a while. Just enjoy the process. And when I miter these edges, I make sure to leave enough for the corner to overlap a little bit, just to make sure that the very tip of the corner isn't, poking out there. Now I'm adding my spine decoration. This fabric was originally a part of an underdress to a dress that I have. I still have the overdress portion, but I didn't wear the underdress portion. So I chopped it off and I've been using it for crafts ever since. I secretly kind of like that you can see the pattern of the cereal box through the spine. I think it's really funny, but also it's just, once again, it's kind of casual. Just the fact that you can turn garbage into enlightening things. It's a good little reminder that imperfect things can be beautiful as well. Oh, I found this fabric with the suns at a thrift store. So I was thinking I'd be able to have this little mandala of a sun on the front cover of this. But I found that the yellow was a little bit too bright and obtrusive for me. So this is a type of fabric I'd like to either tea stain or over dye at some point. I do like that it's sparkly though. And speaking of sparkly, I got out one of my little trinket bowls. And I decided I wanted to use these parts of a bracelet that I had taken apart. Now this bracelet I don't wear anymore, so I already deconstructed it because some of the rhinestones had popped out. But I still think it's pretty and I've got positive memories of it. Trying to pick out the inside cover paper was kind of tough because I didn't know if I wanted to stick with the natural green colors of the cover or if I wanted to go more bold. And as you can see, I decided on going more bold. The papers that I'm using here were colored papers that were dyed. I crumpled them up and put them in assorted tea mixtures. I picked out these colors because I thought they tied in with the cover nicely. You might not be able to see it super well, but there are a couple of orange flowers on the fabric. Plus, my thought is that the orange color ties in with my strength of will and my groundedness, which is something I've been focusing a lot on. To make sure that I get the paper deep into the folds next to the spine, I use this skinny handle of a paintbrush. I just lie it along the crevice and press the paper deep into the crevice as I'm going. I worked all the way from the left to the right to make sure there was enough ease for the right side of the paper to shrink as I'm pulling it into the crevices. And now I'm able to add my last page on the back. It's kind of fun that this glue stick is turning purple because it's almost like I'm sealing this entire book together with the intention of like spirituality and the third eye. And there's the cover done. Now it's time for me to punch holes in the top and bottom so that I can put my signatures in. Now I'm planning on this book to have removable signatures. The way that I use my signatures is that I keep them in my traveler's notebook as I'm filling them up. Then when I'm done, I transfer them to my book of shadows. So I knew based on my last book of shadows that I would want approximately 6 different signatures in this book. I had this existing spine template from another book I had made, so I just used this to help me figure out the spacing. It's not exact, but close enough for me. And pardon me getting all up in the way of this, but I'm just punching all of these holes into the book with an awl. And you can see I've got this little, cutting mat below to make sure I'm protecting my desk. This is an example of some elastic cord you could use to bind up this book of shadows. But I feel like it's a little bit too soft. I might want to double it up if I want to use this. So instead, I think I'm going to go with this cotton cord and make sure that I beeswax it. So for this, I'm making sure that I have the right length by doing 6, 7, 8 pulls of this string. So it's 8 times the height of the book. And I'm making sure that I wax every side of the cord itself, which ends up looking like me running each piece or each little stretch of the string over my beeswax about 3 times. And now I'm getting my little sewing kit out to find my needle. I love this little sewing kit. I find it easier to work with a curved needle just because you can loop it around so well. I'm starting in the bottom second hole coming from the outside in, just so that I can tie the knot semi on the inside of the book. Then I'm just zigzagging up and down. I don't want to have a whole bunch of strings on the outside of this book, so I'm bringing the string all the way across the inside, going out, and then coming in the next hole on the top, and then going down, and then going out, and going back in the next hole on the bottom. Continuing this pattern all the way down. I like doing this system because it uses a lot less string, but also if you have a really sturdy cover like this, it's super easy to do. Then when I'm done here, I just tighten everything up. You want to make sure that your signatures don't bounce around when you put them back in. So here I'm just making sure that my signatures fit. And victory, I measured well. And here I'm just tightening them up a little bit. And I'm bringing the slack all the way over to the last string. And I'm bringing the string over through the holes, zigzagging it back so that I can tie it to the first string and hide that inside. And then I'm just going to tie those strings together. Right over left, left over right. Your basic square knot. And there we go. We've got our little strings installed. If you had a sturdy elastic, it'd be a lot easier to be able to remove and add your signatures. But I'm quite happy with this since it's synthetic free. All natural, baby. And here I'm just making up a signature to show you guys an example of what I'm going to be doing. So I just fold each of these papers in half, nest them together, and use my awl to poke a couple little holes in there. And I use the staple as the template of the size. You don't have to put 2 staples in, and actually for the majority of the signatures, I did end up just making 1 staple in the center. It's just so that the pages don't fall apart, really. And since I'm not using an elastic here, it's a little futzy to get it in and out, but it stays so perfectly in there once it's done. Just putting a little extra pressure on that spine, and I gotta make 6 of these bad boys. Oh, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's the next morning. And I'm just gonna be a paper folding fiend today. So this is a really, really lightweight paper that I have here that I thrifted. And it actually has embossed into each of the pages an insignia of like an American seal. So there's like there's an American eagle and like a coat of arms on it. And it says 1993, which is the year I was born. So I was like, oh, that's really strange. But perfect for a book of reflection for me. I'm an American born in 93, so. I ended up putting about 25 pages in each of these signatures to make sure that I bulked it up enough. And here's the design I came up with for the front. A little different than that sunshine, huh? I really like how it turned out. So let's take a look at this finished book here. So I did come back and do some, I guess, front cover decoration. All these little metal parts here that are super shiny have, they're parts of this bracelet that I got. I remember we got it when I was on a road trip with my parents in Montana. So I remember getting it and I have fond memories of it, so I glued that on there. I've been calling my spiritual book my book of reflection, which is kind of like a book of mirrors, but I feel like the word reflection has less of a, like, I don't know, funhouse mirror perspective to it. So reflection is just like, not only is it me looking into myself, but it's also talking about how you see yourself in the things outside of you. So no matter what, it's a reflection. It's a reflection of what you see outside of you, what you see within you. It's all just a reflection of different versions of the energy of life going through different things. So anyway, I feel like that's a name that I really settled on and I quite like it. So I'm going to stick with that for this book anyway. Yeah, I put corners on here. Pretty simple there. I really like this green fabric, so I put that on the front and back. Move my pencil out of the way. I did put a little lace tie. This was more of an afterthought, but I'm glad I did that because it does have a little bit of alligator mouthing going on. But the thing is if I clamp it, it will stay together. I think it's just how I compressed these guys. They don't stay together super well, so. But anyway, I really like how this turned out. I'm excited to use this. So let's open her up. So I once again made a wallpaper pocket here so I can stick some goodies in there if I ever want to collage things or have stickers I want to throw in here. You can see that this is an afterthought. So I have my lace put in here with I put some glue underneath here and then I put a sticker. So that's what we got going on there. And this is lace that has a slight stretch to it. It's the same type of lace that I have in my grimoire, so I quite like it. This is just like the off-white color. And I did a different design in here than I normally would. I went for kind of an earth tony, natural, like, I don't know, just grounded color scheme. So it has some oranges for like the sense of will and identity, and then some green for like the energy of love. And yeah, I feel really good about the color selection for what I'm planning on reflecting on for the next couple months. So this was my first signature that I have already filled up, so that is why I needed to make this thing in the first place, because I filled up this bad boy. So this was the one I had been using until then. I did all sorts of reflections in here. And now that this one's all filled up, I had to make a new one. So this was the first signature I filled up, which is nice. And I love that I prepped all of these signatures, so once I have the one I'm currently working in done, I can swap it out for this next signature and then just slowly, you know, build upon that. But sometimes I do find that it's kind of annoying to have to fold all your pages and like do that pretty frequently when you fill up a signature. So I prepped all these and I'll just be able to grab and go from now on. So that's pretty cool. And all these signatures I did staple. I showed you the process for that. And it was just a mix of actually quite a thin paper. I'm planning on doing just some writing, so it should be fine to have a fountain pen on, but I won't be able to use any thick markers or anything. I have some linen paper. And yeah, it's mainly just those two papers. and I'm excited to do a lot of writing in here. This back cover, let me scooch my candle out of the way. This back cover is also a wallpaper pocket here. It's a little tiny guy, an offcut from the front, and once again a sticker with my tie there. And I like that it's a shiny pink sticker, so it's like sending out pink, warm, like cozy, soft love. But yeah, so that's the book all together. I will say the way that I made it this time, it has a little bit more of a gap right here. I don't know if you guys can tell that. Right here it's got more of a gap. So the profile of the signatures is much shallower than the cover itself. That bugs me a little bit, but I'm going to fill this book up pretty soon, so I don't think it should be too much of a problem. And also, I've realized sometimes I need to take things less seriously. So the way that I made my first book here, I did it pretty methodically and measured, very calculated to make sure that there was like exactly the right size. And this one, I just kind of, you guys saw the process. I just drew it out and kind of cut with scissors for most of it. I didn't even use a straight edge or anything. It was a really casual and fun process because I was just able to really be present with the process without overthinking it. And I could do it after work, so I didn't have to take it too seriously. So that's the book. I hope you guys enjoy seeing my new book of shadows. And yeah, I hope you guys can use this information on how I made this book to make your own, because there is really an endless supply of ideas and things that you could write and reflect about in a book like this. So anyway, I hope you guys found this helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy this video, consider subscribing. I hope you guys have a magical day. Bye.